kissing mouth to mouth happening according to this hadith? Show me one go. No. It is authentic in the hadith. This expression is idiom. How are you not? Okay, you're not. You're not.
So you're not. What is it? Hajar al-Asqalani said. Well, tell me exactly what this Fath al-Bari. Are you reading Fath al-Bari right now? Are you reading Fath al-Bari?
Do me a favor. Copy this hadith, Adab al-Mufrad 1183. Copy the whole hadith. Put it in ChatGPT and ask it what is the context of this hadith. Just do that for me.
Okay.
Do that for me. Yeah, just do that.
ChatGPT? Why would I go ChatGPT when I can go to sunnah.com?
No, copy the sunnah.com hadith and ask ChatGPT for the context of this hadith. Just say, tell me, explain to me the context. And ask ChatGPT, is this to be understood as tongue to mouth French kissing, or is this an idiom that was used and the scholars understood it differently? Just do that. Do me a favor and do that for me, because I just did that. And then ask it for the right references. Yeah. Do that for me, and then let me know.
All right, let's go.
Okay, but I just want to, while you're looking that up, I just want to talk to Nizam really quick. Nizam, like, well, you gotta talk to your Muslim brotherhood, dude. They're bad. They're really bad, dude. They are freaking awful. Like, this guy was going to us trying to tell us, you need to tell us why kissing somebody on the mouth is bad. And he just was trying to make it like our burden to show you that mouth kissing is bad and that's considered to be. Come on, dude. These guys are fucking terrible.
Like, you know what? Like, Tim, obviously, like people just double down on anything that they hear, right? Like, oh, you put in a hadith that has like these questions, because everyone is so afraid of like questioning the authenticity of something or trying to understand the context in which it's being said. Like, you know, like a lot of Muslims don't trust their intuitions. Like, obviously, like a normal person would say this is wrong, and you know, you gotta take it easy with those guys, man. Like, Tim, like. With a lot of Muslims, and you gotta be like if he comes back in the room, I'll be like, bro, like just first copy the hadith to the ChatGPT, ask him for a context, ask him for explanation before you like go gung ho and defend it.
Well, but he actually said, well, let's just accept the hadith. He said, let's just accept it as sahih and reliable. That was his. He says, I don't have any problem accepting it that way. So he wanted to operate from that position.
Yeah, the tongue thing is problematic, bro. Like, I mean. Like, I would never imagine the Prophet would do something like that and we were about something like that.
But isn't that a very, like simplistic way of looking at societies and, like, anthropology? Because, like, for example, kissing in the mouth hasn't always had the same implications. Like, that we give it today.
Well, but I'm just asking, like here's the thing. Like, we're not talking about, can we talk about any society that thought it was okay for adults to tongue kiss children? I'm not aware of any societies.
Yeah, they do.
I asked ChatGPT, what is the context of this hadith? ChatGPT said that the expression used of like mouth to mouth, like, you know, he put his mouth inside his mouth, is an expression of love, and it could just mean that he was sucking on his fingers or something, or he was like going to
the way that people showed affection changes. It's culturally constructed, and it changes across history. And
so
like,
okay, well, that's fine. Can you show us something that says that there were cultures that used to lick children's, put their tongues, adult tongues in children's mouth and French kiss them? Show us some.
French kiss them is like. You see, this is the issue. Like, it's such an anachronism. You're using like modern tongues.
So we ran through ChatGPT already, and we couldn't find any cultures that showed that. But I'm open for you to show me some cultures.
Did you guys explore this? Did you guys explore this?
Yeah, we did. We didn't find any. By the way, yeah, we've been here for an hour. We've been here for an hour.
I missed out.
The ChatGPT hasn't said anything except that I'm going to like these Muslim websites. They're giving their opinions. I was like, yeah, what's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it. I'm like, okay, this is not a good way of actually coming up with a source, because I'm waiting for a legal source that actually says, for example, in this regard, because they're just quoting a hadith saying, yeah, this was totally okay back in the day. You know, what's what's wrong with people tongue kissing little boys? And that's all I'm hearing from, for example, here, Quran Bible Blog, which is basically .com, which is one. I've also looked into some Reddit posts to see if they can find me any sources in this regard in terms of Shaq Hadith, and I couldn't find any. And so I'm looking sorry, but I can't find. Yeah, I'm looking for. So I'm looking at Sheikh Asim al-Hakim saying about tongue kissing, and it's saying, what's wrong with it? I tongue kiss my son all the time.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm like, this guy.
Wait,
I just think it's been
who was the one
this whole dialect
shit?
this whole dialect thing has been crazy when it comes to like people just saying, oh, it's not sexual to tongue kiss young boys, or oh, there's no way all these scholars that say it's Sahih can be taken seriously. We just completely dismiss them. It's just like confirmation. It's like people doing the most crazy mental gymnastics ever of like, oh, I don't like this, so it must either not be bad or not count as a fucking Sahih. You never can just say, yeah, maybe it is Sahih. Maybe I need to change my mind about Islam.
No, but let's be.
Never does that cross your mind because you're fucking stuck in confirmation bias.
Wait, let me speak.
It's fucking great. I'm a Zionist, but I was showing some evidence about the Gaza war recently that made me change my mind about the war. Why? Because I'm not a hack who doesn't change his mind with evidence. But you guys can never just change your mind. Never just consider evidence against your worldview.
A basic historical.
Hey, do you know what the rules of my house are?
Oh.
Out of curiosity, do you know what the rules are?
No, but I just want to.
There's two rules. It's to get to a point quickly and to not interrupt. And you were breaking the rule of don't interrupt me. So don't fucking do that.
Damn. That's the first time you crashed out on me.
Yeah, that's the first time you were fucking going crazy interrupting me.
No, because this is such a basic concept that I think you guys are failing to consider. Like, if it was in fact an abhorrent thing or an abominable thing that the Prophet did, right? And supposedly these people who are narrating it, right? Like, why would they narrate it without seeking to cope around it at the time? They
don't
just
like
narrated
that. They didn't do this bad.
right? So
I can answer that. You asked a question. I can answer that, right? It seems as if when you look at what the life of Muhammad, right, there's a lot of things that he did that seem to be a little odd about, like him marrying his adopted son's wife and all that stuff. It seems like they became very much apologists for Muhammad. Anytime he did something that was a little uncomfortable, they were like, "Well, Muhammad's doing it, so it must be okay." So I don't think it's a feather in your cap to say well, how come they didn't call him out at the time? I don't think they called him out for a lot of crazy stuff that he did, and I think that's because they thought he truly was the prophet of God, and therefore what he did was.
That's a good point.
I would look at it more from a more criterion of embarrassment kind of way, and assume that. I mean, I know it's not the criterion of embarrassment per se, but it's a similar principle where if it was bad, they would either weaken that hadith or they would establish some kind of strict copes or ways around it. But the fact that it was just narrated so casually and transmitted so casually attests to the fact that this was culturally conventional and not bizarre.
I appreciate you saying that, but I would actually be more inclined to believe what Nizam said, that the word mouth to mouth didn't mean tongue kissing, and so it was not considered to be a bad thing because that's not what it was meant, right? I would be more inclined to believe that than yours, where they're saying, well, maybe they were embarrassed, they don't want to say anything about it, right? Because if you start saying something like that, Nuha, you're going to start basically saying oh, well, these people just started covering for Muhammad when they wanted to, and I don't think anybody wants to say that.
May I just say something real quick? So, first of all, I'm an Arab. This kind of activity is considered despicable and disgusting. We would never do that. Okay, to say that that's even culturally appropriate sometime back then. No, it wasn't. It never was, because the Christians never did it. The Jews never did it. Nobody used to do this stuff. There is no historical evidence of people sucking other people's tongues was totally okay, and and even tribal mentalities would do that to their own grandson. It's disgusting. It's despicable. Never happened. We have not a single other person other than Muhammad in his own sources that has actually done this act. Nobody else except him. So why is it that he's the only guy who managed to do this? And we're saying, oh, this is what they used to do back then. How do you know that? We looked everywhere. We scoured the entire internet trying to
Okay,
find
I'm gonna
these
give
books.
myself some homework to look more into the like ethnographic kind of like literature. See what I can find on like affection and intimacy and stuff like that.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Roha. You and I both have talked before. You've seen some of the most problematic hadith. Like, the drinking of water standing up instead of sitting, like you have to sit down every time you have to drink water and all that nonsense. So to be honest, you know that there's some weird stuff in these hadiths. There's some really disturbingly mentally weird stuff in this hadith. Why can't this be one of them? Like it is what it is. Like we read the Isnad chain. We quoted 3 different muhaddithin. One of them is Al-Dhahabi, which is one of the greatest muhaddithin of all time, and Al-Albani, saying that it's Sahih and Hasan.
Yeah, I'm not questioning the chain. I'm questioning whether it was perceived in the same light that we perceive it.
Yeah, if you can find me a single other person within Islamic sources who did exactly what Muhammad did, then you would have a point. But the problem is, nobody else did this except Muhammad. Muhammad is the only dude who ever French kissed his own grandson.
If that is the case,
any sources.
If that is the case, I'll be inclined. Like, I'm gonna go research it. If that is the case, I'll be inclined to agree. And I do agree with Sam. Like, if we start to weaken hadiths because of this like uncomfortable kind of hadith, it's kind of disingenuous, right? There's no. It's like everything just becomes like, I don't know, like unfalsifiable. Like you can just weaken or strengthen whatever hadith you want based on your intuitions. But yeah, like there's no fixed standard.
No worries. Yeah, I agree.
Neil, I have a question for you. Do you think that people who kill themselves go to hell?
People who kill themselves go to hell. I think they'll get punished. It's a sin. It's probably a major sin. But if they're like, for example, Muslim, and then they kill themselves, I believe they still do go to heaven, right? Eventually. But they might go to hell temporarily, but yeah.
It seems like a little bit evil that someone is so depressed that they kill themselves to torture them more. Like they're already tortured by life. You know, torture them more. It seems like not very kind.
Do you reckon?
Yes.
I mean,
if I found out someone killed, okay, suppose here's what happens. My friend tries to kill himself, but he fails at killing himself. What I wouldn't then do is tie him to a chair and start like flaying his skin off or cutting his fingers off or like electrocuting him. Why? Because it's like an insane thing to do to someone who's depressed and needs help. So what God should do is instead of torturing someone who killed themselves, say, hey man, you're depressed, you need help, but I love you because I'm God and I'm merciful. So yeah, any idea that you would have any hell at all, given how horrible it is to be in such a horrible life that you kill yourself, it just shows how cruel and ridiculous this God is. You should not torture people who kill themselves.
That's still like, it's still based on your moral intuitions. One can say
okay, you don't have moral intuitions, you're a demon. Okay, I was gonna say,
no,
you don't have moral intuitions, you're a demon.
One can say it's just for God to punish someone because he didn't fulfill his end of the covenant, right? God told him, don't kill yourself. And he went and he killed himself and he interrupted God's, like, you could say, like, what God actually wanted for him or whatever. I know it's a bit.
If you have moral intuitions, you're a good person. If you think you should help the needy, you should be fair, you should be kind, you're a good person. If you don't have moral intuitions, you're just a fucking demon, you're just a fucking psycho. Oh yeah, I'll just fucking torture people that kill themselves. Oh, I'll just fucking kick puppies and gouge the eyes out of babies.
Yeah, but how can you prove that it's evil? Like, is my claim. Like,
Oh, how can you prove 2 plus 2 is 4? How can you prove it? I don't
Yeah,
know.
but come on, we all know it's not like that because there are many ways one can actually, even from a secular perspective, argue that it's not necessarily evil. Like if the body that like the life you're terminating doesn't actually belong to you and it's a creation of God, like
Do you think morality is just totally arbitrary?
I don't know, bro. I don't think it's like.
Don't you think it has something to do with?
That was a good answer when she said.
No, it's not. Okay, when it has
from her
to do with morality
standpoint,
morality has to do with suffering, fairness, impartiality. It's not a fucking coincidence. The judgments we make. We think about how we would want to be treated ourselves. We think about what causes pain and causes ourselves pain. That's what animates our judgments. We say, "Oh, I wouldn't like it if someone steals from me. I wouldn't like it if someone gouges my eyes out, so I won't do it to them. I don't like it when someone tortures me. I won't torture them." That's what we used to base our judgments on. It's not just arbitrary whims. It's literally based on reason, suffering, impartiality. It's not just arbitrary. I hate when people think it's arbitrary. It's not. It's obviously not.
Sam, if that was the case, the world would not be where we are right now. But I don't think that's what Naha, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. I don't want to disrespect your name. I don't think that was her point when Naha, I don't think that was her point when she was speaking to you regarding her viewpoint on morality. She's speaking of a covenant that if you break the covenant, it's not your life to give. So you're in breach of covenant. That's her argument.
Oh yeah, it makes so much sense to care about the covenant. Yeah, that makes me want to torture. That makes me want to torture people that kill themselves. When my best friend kills himself, I'm gonna say, yeah, he deserves to be tortured. That makes any sense at all. It's just a fucking broken ideology. I honestly feel like I'm on a world full of fucking broken people who are blind, and I feel like a fucking how is it not obvious that if someone tries to kill themselves or does kill themselves, that they were in already a lot of pain, and what they deserve is love and sympathy, and I'm sorry that your life was so hard, and I'm sorry that the fucking situations of your fucking life got to the point where you fucking tried to do that. And the answer to that is not to fucking torture them. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? The fuck is wrong with you? If someone kills themselves, it means their life was horrible. They should be fucking tortured for that. Fucking idiots. You fucking idiots. I'm sorry.
You weren't serious, were you? If you were, my condolences.
Why would you ask him if he's serious? What the fuck?
Because that's the question. I don't know if he was playing or if he was serious. I don't know him that well.
Okay, how about we assume he was serious? Because he sounded obviously very upset. Why did you even fuck that? How about we don't take it away from his moment on this? Sam, I'm very sorry that happened, and I'm very sorry that I'm sure that you've had to deal with something like this, and I'm in complete agreement with you. And I think that, this ideology that espouses that individuals who are in horrendous pain then have to be given more pain as a result of their inability to cope with that pain is horrendous. And I absolutely agree with you. And I can think of a variety of different situations in which if I were in pain, I would do the same thing. And, the idea that I should be punished for the fact that the type of pain that I have is different and more than the type of pain perhaps somebody else had to endure that would cause me to do something like that does not enable somebody to say that I deserve to be tortured for that. I think that's horrendous. I'm in absolute agreement with you. And I'm sorry that whatever you're thinking about when you're talking about that is so upsetting, and I appreciate you sharing it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you, man.
I've lost 3 of my best friends to suicide.
Sam, it was not my intention to disrespect you in any kind of way. So my apologies. I am learning who you are, so I didn't know that this was not a hypothetical situation. So I apologize to you. And I understand where you're coming from.
I've been this past couple days, I've been reading much more about Islam. It's making me much more like, I find it completely indefensible in any way. The hadiths that I found are the silliest, most childish shit I've ever seen in my life. The most absolutely embarrassing fairy tale children's stories I've ever heard in my life. And then Muhammad, when I found out that his old wife, he was like, please don't divorce me. You don't have to have sex with me anymore. You can have sex with your young wife instead of me. Please don't divorce me. And then Muhammad didn't comfort her in that moment of insecurity. Muhammad is not a good man. The fact that you based your life on a religion around a man who's not a good man is something you should be ashamed of. This ideology is silly. It's a silly book. It's a silly worldview. Muhammad, is a bad man. Now, so is Abraham. So is Moses. But I don't have as many people telling me that fucking they are perfect people. But these people tell me, oh yeah, Muhammad's so great. Let me tell you about some things that Muhammad did. Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old. He tongue-kissed a young boy. Let's read some more of these. He had a sex slave. He married a woman after killing her husband. He initiated military actions. He owned slaves. He traded 2 black slaves for Arab slaves. He stopped visiting his second wife because she was too old and decided to visit his young wife instead of her. He tongue-kissed a young boy. This is not a good man. This is not a good man.
He's a very despicable man. I agree. There's also other passages, Sam. I can't remember specifically what one there is, but like he had like just finished putting a city to the sword and take some of the women for himself and had this little harem and like had to get them out of the city a certain amount so he could marry them to force them to have sex with them. I can't remember what passage that was, but it's just a litany of horrific things that people try and justify because they think that this book that they were taught is true because somebody taught them that it was true, right? And, like if we burned all of the Qurans today, which I don't advocate for because I don't think that book should be burned, and I like knowledge for knowledge's sake. But if we burned all of the Qurans today, you would not find a new Quran that would have the same information or written the same way in 100 years from now if nobody else knew about it. It would not be a thing. And I think this is just a testament to the fact that these were ridiculous ideas written by people from a very long time ago that didn't know what they were talking about. And for some reason, we've incorporated into our social framework in this like inextricable way that we haven't been able to get over. And people keep making these apologetics for these horrific figureheads of these religions.
Yeah, if you find that passage, I'd love to see it. I'll put it in my document.
Yeah, I'll try and find it.
No rush, just if you do. People ask me why I open up these rooms on Islam. It's like, the more I deal with this text, the more I talk to people justifying this stuff. It's like, what? How are you doing this? You must see the insanity. You must see the insanity of these hadiths, the moral insanity of Muhammad's behavior. You must see it. Like, how can you not see it? It is clear as day. It is clear as the sun on a spring day. It is not like it's not like some subtle fucking algebra problem. The hadiths are saying stuff like the monkeys are stoning each other, and that the Satan sleeps in your nose, or that you should wipe your ass an odd number of times, or that there are rats that are Jews and follow kosher laws,
or that camel piss heals ailments, or that you have to walk into the bathrooms on your left foot and pray to God that the demons don't crawl up your asshole as you finish shitting and that you don't shit towards Mecca, or that semen comes from your backbone, or any number of ridiculous things.
It's the fairy tales of a fucking medieval, uneducated moron. And then billions of people base their lives on it.
Not only base their lives on it, but willingly end other people's lives based upon it.
Sorry, I had to take the phone call, guys. Did I miss any?
Well, I got really upset because of people were was saying that when I was talking about suicide and how you go to hell, like your life is so horrible that you kill yourself and then you get tortured for that, and that got me really upset about the insanity of that and the stupidity of that.
Got it.
Do you know that what's interesting, Sam, is there isn't a historical basis for that in the Bible, for example. This was something that was like ad hoc added because the church was worried that people would just kill themselves to go to heaven early. So they like added these additional passages in to be like, you shouldn't kill yourself because God. I say you now, look at the history of it. Because God, there was nothing originally in the Torah, the original Bible, that had anything to do with suicide. It was ad hoc added in so that people wouldn't like try and rush their way in it.
Before creation itself,
It's funny.
there was
There's a similar thing in Buddhism where a lot of Buddhists say, like, well,
I don't love working that much, and if I'm going to see my loved ones in heaven anyways, I'm going to off myself tomorrow. Because then I don't have to go to work anymore. I'm immediately in heaven getting finger blasted by the 72 virgins or whatever the fuck else. What incentive do I have? And if there's no punishment for it, then yeah, what logical person would it do it?
and also in Buddhism, they go, life is suffering, and the best thing to do is escape suffering. And then some people will like, you can't kill yourself. So they go, no, you can't kill yourself because reincarnation able to share energy amongst themselves. But then there's this secular Buddhist who don't believe in reincarnation. It's like, okay, well, do you think the purpose of that life is nothing but suffering, and the only thing to do is to escape samsara? Then kill yourself.
We're all very
If you don't believe in reincarnation,
we like to get paid.
but they don't ever take it there. Life isn't just suffering. Some of the Buddhists are wrong. Life is nothing to do with it. It's not just success. Unity, it's that fun, it's that friendship, it's that community, it's that love. If you care carefully, saying life is just suffering is just as dumb as saying life is just joy. It's just a fucking confusion of what life is. Life is complicated. Some good, some bad, some boring, some confusing. It's just not. Orgasm is suffering, it's just there.
The problem is, these religions remind me of. You ever see Hellraiser?
Yeah.
They're like religion for the Cenobites, dude. They're all based upon the veneration of suffering, right? This like idea that the more suffering you experience, the better your rewards, and the stronger you are as a person, the more blessed you are by God. I mean, hell, you can even like look in the Bible at the passages regarding. I can't remember the individual's name, but like the Jewish man that was the holiest of all men that God loved the most. And then Moses like saw a prophecy of God showed him what was going to happen in the future, and this guy was going to die horribly, like torn apart by hooks and have his skin flayed and all this. And Moses was like, "Why, God?" And God's like, "Go fuck yourself. I do things I want." And it's just like, who honors these monsters? Like, why? Like, given two different options. One option where there's two gods that you could pray to, one of which doesn't require all this suffering, and says to the other God, like, I could do everything you're doing absent the suffering. Who would choose that God, right? You wouldn't, right? Like, this is like the Kim Jong-un of gods. Like, it's the veneration of a fucking Cenobite religion. It's insanity.
Sam, how you doing, Sam? This is your favorite friend.
Hello.
I'm so sad the guy left. I wanted you to ask him that question about Mohammed sleeping with his slaves. Because it was I was so sad he left, because if you read the part that narrated the story, he first told Aisha that, the Lord commanded I can sleep with anybody I want to sleep with. And Aisha responded to him that, are you sure it's the Lord that told you, or you're just fulfilling your own fantasies? I wanted MT to answer that question. So
I know that story. So the full story goes that he was found sleeping with his sex slave, Maria the Cobb, in the bed of one of his wives called Hafsa. When Hafsa caught him basically cheating. Not cheating, sorry. It's not cheating when you're having sex with your sex slave, but he caught him in the bed of his own wife, which is disrespectful. The first thing Muhammad said, please don't tell this to Aisha. Because Aisha talks smack about everybody, right? As soon as he finds out. Well, guess what? She did. And Aisha brought all the other wives into that room and then made Muhammad to swear not to sleep with Maria the Cobb ever again. And And Muhammad said, I swear that I will never sleep with Maria the Cup ever again. And guess what? He got a revelation from Allah. And saying, Allah tells me that I can sleep with my sex slave, and if you guys don't accept it, then Allah will replace you with a better wife. And after that, Aisha says, I feel like your God is hastening to fulfill your desires, Muhammad. And that's where that.
And it's so funny that in that one verse or whatever, it doesn't say, "Oh, you will be replaced by better wives." It's like, perhaps you will be. Maybe you'll be replaced with better wives. It's like Allah's like, you know, maybe you'll be replaced with better wives. You better be careful. That might happen.
I feel like every time he says that, I'm getting a revelation. You know, like the sock puppet is like there's a sock puppet in his hand that goes up, and says, Allah's here, guys. Hey, you know, and then Allah starts talking through his hand. It's like, talking to you guys.
I need the more wives. It is time. Aisha, remember, you're no longer a child anymore. You're no longer my favorite. Time to replace you.
It's like, hello, I'm Allah. I'm telling you that you can have anybody you want, and if you girls don't like it, I'm gonna replace you. I'm gonna replace you. That's right.
I love thinking of it just being at like dinner and looking at who's gonna take the last piece of food off the plate. Allah says I get the rest.
There was
like everything.
My favorite convenient verse is like, the one that when Muhammad it's his wedding night, and he had his wedding night, and then these leaders of this tribe wouldn't leave his tent because he wants to go to his wife, right? It's his wedding night, so he was too shy to tell the leader of his tribe because it was pretty disrespectful to tell your elders to leave, right? And the elders were having fun. So Allah revealed the revelation. Here comes a sock puppet. Guys, sorry to bother you, but Muhammad is too shy to tell you to leave and not loiter around. So Allah's telling you to leave and loiter around. No, and that's pretty much what the verse actually said. The verse said that don't loiter around because Muhammad is too shy.
No, it literally says don't come to the Prophet's house early for dinner. Like the last testament to man is like, yeah, don't come to Muhammad's house early for dinner.
How early is too early, Sam?
It doesn't say.
What's interesting is because the way that they explain the Quran is something called it comes from the Lawh al-Mahfuz, which means that in Arabic, it's the eternal tablet. It was there since the dawn of time, right? This is like the most sacred of the sacred, respectful, reverent kind of thing. And it's talking about Muhammad's libidos and what he's going to do. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what is this? Like, why is it in the eternal tablet of God saying that you can do all of these crazy stuff? Like, it doesn't make any sense. There was another one that Allah actually, another convenient verse that I liked was when he married his adopted son's wife. You know about that one?
Y'all gonna eat this Kitover Congressman?
No.
I don't much like the taste of it.
So
I
the
know
story
one thing you
goes,
gotta like it. We just gotta figure out if any of us
so
left.
Muhammad was going to his adopted son was named Zayd, and Muhammad he was called at that time.
What do they want to do? What is
Just eat the damn garlic, girl.
You're not married as well.
I wonder if the devil come first.
Can you repeat that, sir? You're cutting off.
Was the story, that's how people say that women started coming up in Islam because he went to visit his adopted son, with his adopted son's house, and saw his wife on fire, and he now told his wife.
That was Umar. So Umar saw one of Muhammad's wives, doing the call of nature, and she was like a tall lady in front of him, and says, why don't you just,
Need a
put
free phone?
hijab on or something, and that's where the hijab or niqab or whatever the word came from. But no, that's a different story. This one is a story of when Muhammad got a revelation from Allah that would allow him to marry his adopted son's wife. Because back then, marrying your adopted son's wife was considered a no-no. You don't do that. And I believe there was a Quranic verse that also says that you cannot marry your adopted son's wife. So it was even enshrined in the Quran. So what happened was that Muhammad was going to his adopted son's wife's house, Zayd, in this regard, and he was walking by the window of his of Zayd's house and saw his wife, Zayd's wife, wearing a nightgown. And guess what? He said,
damn.
Yeah, damn. And of course, the wife saw that and she said, boy. So she's like, oh, this is my opportunity to get up the social ladder. So she demanded from Zayd to be divorced because at that time Zayd already had 3 other wives. So he's like, hey, and she's like, oh, my why is my wife nagging so much about divorcing me? And then mom was like, oh, don't divorce her. I don't know why she's doing that. I have no idea why she would want to do that. And he's rolling his eyes. Okay. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna just divorce her. I'm like, okay, cool. If you want to divorce her, yeah, I ain't stopping you. And then Muhammad, as soon as she got divorced, Muhammad married her. Okay. And this caused a scandal amongst the community. So guess what? Allah's sock puppet comes out. Oh, here comes the sock puppet. Muhammad's sucker. Allah tells me that I can marry my adopted son's wife. And by the way, your adopted sons are no longer, there's no such thing as adoption anymore. Only foster children. So I've banned adoption because I wanted to get my dick wet. So now there's no more adoption because Muhammad wanted to have sex with his adopted sons. And by the way, which is his first cousin too. And this is where first cousin marriage comes from too. And now, here's another problem that it caused. Now, all the people that have been adopted into these families that they have, now they were wondering, okay, I have a kid who's about 18 and he's an old man with a beard. Now, what, am I going to start wearing a hijab in front of my adopted kid? These, I'm talking about the ladies, right? And Muhammad said, I found a solution. The solution is that you're going to breast suckle him 10 times or 5 times if they abrogate it many times. But you're going to breast suckle your adult man, and that way, now he's allowed, you don't have to take off your hijab every time you're around him. So, and that's exactly, so every time when random strangers want to enter into Muhammad's wife's houses, they have to get breast suckled every time. Aisha used to breast suckle a lot of people, and she hated that. She hated that with a passion. No wonder that the verse got, that those verses, those chapters of those verses were actually underneath her bed, and a goat came and ate it. Yeah, right. Oops. No. I'm pretty sure that she actually wanted those gone because she hated it. And she was, and another chapter of the verse was about stoning adulterers, which she was also accused of. And she wanted that gone too because she didn't want the punishment for her death, right? In the Quran. Although it was recorded in the Hadith, so therefore that's why we have stoning of adulterers.
Sounds just like Joseph Smith.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many weird stories. Like, these are funny stuff. I always laugh. Like, every time when I read some of these stuff, I'm like, you can't make this shit up. I could go to the Laughing Factory, or I could start a sitcom, and I could be making billions of dollars out of it. I mean, absolute billions of dollars. For me personally, there are 2 books. There are 2 books in particular: Al-Tabari, Republican comedy, and Alfred Guillaume's book, The Sir Rasulullah. So those 2 books, you will either like say, my goodness, what a despicable, absolute evil person, or you're gonna just laugh your ass off. It's like those 2 things like come simultaneously. You would tremble in fear, and you would also laugh at the same time, really, really hard. It's a weird combination. Like it's funny. Someone's already done that. Republican comedy. Someone's actually turned it into like a graphic novel. Not graphic novel. Sorry, into like an animation type thing. And there's one called Nabi Asli. There's another one called Satan, which is 710 or Satan. But that's more of a musical type thing. But Nabi Asli, he has turned all of these weird ass stories into. There's another one that I forgot right now, and it's not in my mind. It's like a 2D animation, but I can't remember what it's called. I'm trying to think about it. I'll get back. Sam, you there?
Yeah, what's up? You're done. What's up? You did, didn't you? Yeah, my Islam document is getting so long. I have 21 pages now.
Sam, can I make the suggestion?
What's up?
I suggest that you watch some Rob Christian's videos.
Child is animal cruelty because, you know, if you look at it, the numbers of dogs, like bulldogs,
all he does is
decrease, like they have
that Muhammad did.
and
some really nasty stuff.
I mean, some people think that, you know, owning pets is cool because it decreases their ability to survive in the wild. And, you know, now I'm willing to hear arguments that people make for that. But, you know, in general, it's like, you know.
So you say that dogs have the problem surviving in the wild?
Yeah, bulldogs, like they.
Yeah, maybe goats, but I mean, the African wild dog, you should look at online there and look at the African wild dog. There's a beautiful dog. I love to have one. I think it's illegal to have one in Canada. But you should look at them because they have the highest attack rate in Africa. Like their rate of killing is like 70 to 75% of the attack. And I don't think any other animal has that successful rate of attacking other animals. Like the African wild dogs are just best attack rate in Africa.
Yeah, I mean, like I agree. It's like you can have it, but you have also examples like what I saw with like bulldogs. They're not. They have, you know, their breathing, their respiratory abilities have decreased because of the way that they have been domesticated. So
you might know this better than I do, but I heard this from my son. Aren't some bulldogs like genetically engineered? Like they're not like a. I thought the French bulldog is not like a dog that existed before. It was like, well, basically something that was tampered, but I don't know if this is true or not. But I'm asking.
I don't know so much about that, but I don't know about Great Danes. I know that they have a lot of respiratory problems, mostly because of the fact that they, they're such, big dogs that have such, very fragile respiratory for the dog their size, that their cardio is just doesn't have a lot of strength.
You know Victoria very well.
What?
Do you know Victoria very well?
Yeah, I know her.
Yeah, she's not hard to dissolve.
I mean, like in general, she just like she doesn't like to be interrupted. Which I mean, to be fair, like bro, it's like could you just let her finish what she was saying? Ultimately, like.
Don't get me wrong, I interrupted. I'm not going to deny that, but I just found it really funny that I say something and they're first straight on their mouth is they're talking about ownership and they know better than for their lives to do, and which they're animals, which we don't, right? Like we say we're going to do this because it's just better for us, but it's better for them, but like they don't make that decision, right? And And I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not saying I'm 100% just because I can't talk to a dog or cat, but I'm pretty fucking sure if I could talk to a cat and animal and tell what to do, the answer would be no.
But you do understand, of course, that we make, of course, many other decisions, like with, when we have, like, infants, like, we always,
Yeah, but that's different. That's completely different. That's just a bogus argument. Because our infants...
We do things as stewards.
Yes. But our kids are free when they get to a certain age, and they want to run. We teach them, and I do agree with you 100%. But they're on their own at a certain age and have the responsibility. Animals never get that choice.
Well, yeah, because there's some things, animals never have the ability to be able to do things like
pets.
Animals don't have the intelligence to be able to drive cars.
That's not what I meant at all. Hey, listen, man. You're being very dishonest right now, right?
No, my point is...
No, yes, you are, because that's not what I meant. You know that's not what I meant. You're very dishonest.
You're not understanding what I'm saying.
You just said that animals just can't leave and drive cars. Like, reading that, bro? Like,
yeah, do you understand the point of what I'm making?
Yeah, I don't like this to hear that bullshit. Like, move on.
Okay. I'd like to get put in the queue. Sorry, Negro, to take your dopamine away.
Okay, you guys can go ahead because I have to do a few things here for my stock market. So you guys can go ahead. I'll go first.
I actually gotta go so.
It was such a fascinating conversation, Negro.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really debate
are those hairs coming out of a mole on your chin? Am I mistaken in your black and white photo?
What are you talking about?
Bottom right, your left, stage right, or I guess stage left on your chin. Are those hairs on a mole that I see in the black and white photo?
Yes.
Interesting. Have you thought about?
Is that your real picture, Edward?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, yeah, because often people don't put their real picture.
Have you thought about plucking the hairs from the moles, or is that just like an extra thing for a girl to play with or a guy to play with, on Friday night?
Yeah, what do you have against people who have moles?
No, I'm just wondering, like, can you actually remove the hairs? Because, aesthetically, it might be more pleasing to have a well-groomed face instead of, like, hairs coming out of a mole on your chin. It's just an idea. I mean, I want you to get laid. I'm on your side, bro. I'm here to give you maybe some free consultation.
I mean, my face is more clean shaven than you.
I know, but you have, like, mole hair.
So why are you going after me?
I'm just literally aesthetically making a suggestion. It's not personal. I'm just saying I think you probably look more handsome without hairs growing out of a mole on your chin.
And do you not think it's something that I try to manage?
No, I know it's probably a challenge. Just, never mind. You're right. It's a challenge to manage mole hair. I agree.
Yeah.
I get hair all over my ears, my unibrow. It's like I got to constantly groom myself. So I'm just saying that,
Yeah, it's Deco and John there. We had this discussion about the pets, right? And I was kind of defending, that they were. And I got my mind changed. And the person that was debating actually changed my mind on this topic. Like, I never used to think this way because I always had animals, I always had dogs or cats. But I changed my mind about 5 years ago in this stance. Just let you know that I was always like this.
Welcome back to Fight Club, where low IQ dumb people will talk about nothing while their personal lives burn down all around them, or they never had any. Somebody kicked me.
Arrested many American-born citizens that are Mexican descent. So there's profiling going on. So if you look like a Mexican, they're going to come after you, even though you're an American.
Oh, you gotta mod me. He's interrupting. You gotta mod me.
Okay. Stop begging, you cocaine bitch.
I'm not begging.
Not deleting the... Mod Norman! Move up and down, but no, as we said, okay?
Say it again?
I said, no throwing people out of the room, no deleting
Yeah,
the
just
chat.
kick
Move
them down
up
to the
and
audience.
down.
I could move him down. That's what I was gonna do. Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Only because he's interrupting.
Yeah, well, and he's also cursing people out.
Yeah,
He's polite political discussion. But
Yeah.
bring him up here, so give him a
I can't wait till he comes back and sees my PTR. It's gonna really love it.
He can see it right now.
You can say, are you off the phone now or something? Or Resistance or whatever your name is?
That looks a little bit pornographic.
What is
That's Muhammad.
that will get you your head cut off in a Muslim area.
Oh my God! Come on, that's just a bit much. Come on,
It's Muhammad.
I know. Come on, let's just. I mean, things that just really shouldn't be done.
But this is it. Like this wasn't done in like fucking Texas or something. This came from the Middle East. This is done by it's not actually Muhammad represented here, but
but pretty much most people will think it is.
Yeah, that's the point. I mean,
Please, just polite request, just change it.
Can I do the one with Hamas where they have the Hamas flag and it has the dildos? Is that okay?
Whatever, just
okay. I'll do the Hamas flag holding dildos. Let me change it.
Yes, me.
Come on.
Just you're still with the plus. You like that, huh? Or are you still
no,
trial?
I canceled it. I didn't know that we can cancel it. Have the other guys,
So
I saw. Wait, this is there.
I saw listen to maybe the first 15 minutes, as your client's podcast with the former Prime Minister Omer. Okay. I don't know. Is he like a controversial person? I mean, he was the Prime Minister, so enough people must have liked him. But he's a little critical.
Okay, you made a statement. You want to tell us what you?
No, I'm asking, like, what is your guys' opinion of him? I'm sure you. He's obviously being very critical of how Israel's handling this situation now. He wasn't with the initial.
Why you let this fucking colonizing homo throw me down? I'm not talking about you, Pat, but you are homo.
You've violated my rule, and if you don't violate the rule, he will not throw you down. Okay? Come on, that was not necessary.
I heard an outburst.
No, there was no outburst.
I heard him yelling.
He just talks like that.
He was talking. For him, that was quiet. He was white colonizer. I can deal with that. That's not a big deal.
I just heard him yelling. That's why I sent him that.
Those uncivilized Puerto Ricans weren't colonized well enough.
I thought you wanted to have a civilized conversation.
Yes, I do. For him, that was civilized. It was okay. I think it was okay for you to. Okay, let's just.
He's gonna.
If it wasn't for you white Europeans, we would have not brought the plague over here to it. Ticks and all the rest of those nasty Europeans.
But I'll talk about that. No one knew about bacteria and germs. Hold on, let's talk about this for a moment. People did not know about germs and resistance, and I'm using it another way, resistance to things that, the Europeans had built up resistance to the plague and other diseases that the Native Americans didn't have. It's not as though, like, Columbus and other people that were colonizers said, you know what, we're going to wipe them out with disease. No, that was not part of the game plan because they couldn't even think about that because they didn't even know about it. Understanding, petri juices and how to grow.
Wait, you're saying Columbus and them didn't understand human biology and genomics and all this kind of shit? Like, seriously?
Yeah, when you have that's one of the biggest problems.
I really thought that when the conquistador or the Spaniards walked across South America, that when they wiped out 1 million people in the jungle, they did it on purpose. Damn, I really thought that.
Hold on, white war and other things.
Yeah, they coughed on it. They coughed on it.
I'm talking about just showing up and.
Yeah, I know there was these Spaniards who. When they arrived the first time in South America, marched like 25 soldiers across the central part of South America, and they said that they had seen a great city with like 1 million people, and then when they showed up a couple years later, everybody was gone, and they're like, oh, the guys were making this shit up, and now when they're doing like LiDAR and stuff like that, they actually found the city and they've unearthed it, and they said that they estimated it had like over 1 million people and that they all died of disease. But I really thought they did that on purpose, Stan.
Yeah. I mean, one would think that they didn't know anything at that time.
Like India.
The thing is, Louis Pasteur didn't come onto this.
Also, Norman, it's something that you might be interested in the hearing, and it's also coming from the mouth of a Christian. The earliest writings about powerlifting or weightlifting was actually Saint Jerome in 349. He was born in 349, so it was around that time. When he was alive, and a little weightlifting, and he attributes it to the Jews actually being the first people in history that we have through historical evidence that shows people actually using like weightlifting devices and stuff. And also the first power lifter was also a Jew. Yeah, I know the Greeks did. The Greeks did, but they talked about it. When he was the first person to actually talk about like, you know, weightlifting and using actual apparatuses for weightlifting. I noticed that about the Greeks.
That's a Greek word, isn't it?
I mean, I'd love to take credit for it, but I don't believe that was us.
Did he leave, or did you throw him out? Did Resistance leave on his own?
I sent him down, and I guess he
And then he left?
Yeah.
Because I invited him back up.
So
the only problem with making Norman a moderator is he'll just kick everybody, and then we don't have anybody to do it.
All them the rules.
I know. But we don't know who he's kicking, you know? He'll be like, I guess they just left.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody's an asshole to you, the Norman.
No, that is incorrect. Only assholes are assholes to me.
So
Yeah, but you define everybody as an asshole.
Hold on. No, I do not define everybody as
No cursing and no personal attacks. If that defines an asshole.
Okay. Some guy I know defines people as butt heads.
No, I haven't done that. And you don't know me.
I am a two-time Pulitzer nominee. You know, I how much can you know about a man?
It's hard. You know, when somebody wins an Academy Award, you know what? One of the first things they say is, it's amazing to win an award amongst all these people that were nominated. Like, there are a lot of journalists in this world, and look, I was a journalist for a brief period of time, 3 years. There are a lot of journalists, and then there are people who are nominated, which is like one cliff, and then there's a higher cliff that wins. So any day of the week, I will take nominated over being just a journalist.
Oh no, I find it to be very respectful.
Yeah, but you were just using it as a.
No, I was just pointing it out because he's never mentioned it before, so I was just mentioning it for him.
He's mentioned it a few times.
Maybe twice. Maybe.
Maybe today twice, but
No, about twice. Write it down if I never mention it.
Okay, today I'll put it down today. Hold on.
I haven't mentioned it. He mentioned it, not me. He brings it up every time he comes into the room. He comes around.
Maybe he's jealous. What does he do? What do you do for a living, Mr.
I own a business.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Okay.
I do onboarding recruiting.
Okay, interesting.
What's the Pulitzer Prize of onboard?
Oilfield, petroleum, Midland, Odessa.
Where, in like Louisiana or Texas?
Texas.
Midland?
West Texas, Midland. Midland, Odessa.
George Bush country.